The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
But now Blackledge is going to put it up on first down. He's going for the bundle. Garrity! Touchdown!
And the NFL.
The Denver Broncos are world champions. They have just won Super Bowl 50.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 216th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back and plenty to talk about tonight as we kind of dive into one of our quote-unquote regular shows. But, you know, it's that time of year where there's plenty to talk about. I know we love the October month when it comes to sports, and that's where we're at right now. I know October's probably only second to July, especially like mid-July, you know, for
Every
you.
year. Every year.
So anyway, this time of year though is great, and there's so much going on. So you know, we can't possibly get into all of that, but we're going to touch on a few things tonight, and that's just exciting.
Yeah, football. That's what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, like, there's plenty of football as we show week to week.
Yes, we are very much aware that the NHL just got underway with the Flyers having a nice win Friday night against the LA Kings, and then, as usual, an overtime loss. Not a shootout, overtime loss to the Arizona Coyotes yesterday.
From kind of following along while I was watching college football, I kind of got the impression that they didn't really deserve to win the game at all. So to get to overtime and at least get the point, you know, not all bad.
Getting that 1 point is
two
nice.
road games, 3 points so far. That's
Take
good.
It.
Yeah,
Take it.
absolutely.
Yeah, especially at West Coast stuff.
Yeah.
You know, long trip
and get
over
some of
the
those
season.
games out of the way. You know,
And they have now. I know it was much ado about nothing last week about how the Flyers have the smallest roster in terms of height in the NHL. Which, okay. They also have one of the youngest rosters in the NHL after they brought up Ivan Provorov, the young defenseman, and Travis Konecny, the young forward, both I believe
had
19.
a couple of nice plays already.
They had combined for 3 assists in the first game and are looking as promising as ever. I know General Manager Ron Hextall didn't want to have them up this year if he could. He likes to keep his players in the juniors, just how he helped build the great squad that's playing in LA that they just beat the other night. Through the draft, young players, letting them blossom in the lower levels before calling them up. But hey, he said they earned it on merit. They're with the Flyers team out of training camp because of the way they played in the preseason and during training camp, and they are expected to be here all season. Now, a lot of times you'll see a young player get a cup of coffee with the team where they get like 10 or 12 games and then their salary becomes guaranteed or something vests, so then they'll send them back down to Lehigh Valley or loan them back to their junior team. That is not happening, or that's not expected to happen.
Right, yeah. So we'll kind of see how it plays out, but, you know, it is exciting to see some of the young talent, at least get their shot to kind of show what's going on here. So, like you said, that's in full swing, but definitely dominating the show, as it almost always does, is the NFL season's underway, and the last couple of weeks there's been some more interesting games. You know, it seems like, I don't know, I feel like in years past, a couple weeks into the season, you could start to have things all figured out and kind of figure out what's going on. Now we've pretty much reached the middle of October, and I feel like I'm just now starting to get a grasp on it. I feel like watching today's games, I started to realize, you know what, maybe this is how this team is going to be. And you know what, this team, maybe they're better than I was giving them credit for. All that kind of stuff. I'm starting to finally settle in, and we're more than a third of the way through the season. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. But before we dive into the Week 6 action, we want to take a step back and go to Week 5. Now, we're not going to touch on every game. We'll kind of highlight the ones important to us and, more importantly, our listeners, the teams that they're interested in. We may throw a game or two in here that was interesting, maybe had a controversial call or a crazy ending. But let's start back at the beginning of Week 5 and just say the Thursday night game was Arizona at San Francisco. The Cardinals needed a win in that one. They went on the road and they got it 33-21. That was a big game for the Cardinals without Carson Palmer.
Yeah, Drew Stanton on a Thursday night on the road.
Right.
So they kind of had everything going against them there, except the one big thing, and that would be playing a Chip Kelly defense.
It seems so long ago that the 49ers shut out the LA Rams in the season opening weekend.
Yeah, 28-0. Yeah, it seems like a
the
long
49ers
time ago.
1-4 after that game, and they got worse after today, which we'll touch on in a bit. Other games from Week 5, Patriots over Browns and Tom Brady's debut, not too unexpected.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Over 400 yards passing for Brady.
He's pretty good.
Bears fall to the Colts. The Colts have some late heroics again. They beat the Chicago Bears 29-23.
Again, I never really looked for it, but I was still shocked that they made the Colts play the week after they played in London.
Surprising.
I thought that was part of the deal. I know we mentioned that before, but
I feel like more should have been made of that when the schedule came out in April.
Yeah, and I kept waiting for more of it to be made last week, and I didn't hear anyone mention it other than us.
Right. Everyone should be listening to us. We obviously have the best hot takes.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know, but again, to win that game, the Bears aren't good, but to win that game at all, I found impressive. And you know what? You look. I don't know. The Colts are a team where maybe I still don't really understand where they are. So we'll talk more about that later.
And what should surprise no one is Tennessee going to Miami and beating the Dolphins 30-17. This is a game that if Miami wanted to have any hope of saving their season, and I know what happened today, it doesn't matter. They needed to beat the Titans. You know, they played Seattle tough in Seattle. They played New England tough in New England. They beat the Browns. They probably shouldn't beat the Browns. They didn't look good against the Bengals. Then they lay an egg against the Titans. Yeah. It doesn't matter what they did this week. That was a game they needed to win to turn the season around and have a chance, and they couldn't get it done. And
this is one where when you look at today's result, they won today's battle, but they had a huge setback in the war.
Yeah,
of
the
war
season. Of the 2016 season.
They had a huge setback last week.
Redskins over Ravens 16-10. A bit of a surprise, I think.
And a close call. It was one on overturned. I believe correctly overturned. I didn't honestly really follow up on it, but the Ravens scored what could be potentially the go-ahead touchdown towards the end, but it was overturned as the receiver only got 1 foot down in bounds, I believe.
And the Ravens started 3-0, dropped to 3-2 after this game, and after today, they dropped to 3-3. Vikings over Texans 31-13. Minnesota 5-0, and they go into the bye week. They're looking good. Best team in the NFL. I mean, it's hard to say not.
And if you talk about most complete team, they've got great special team contributions already. They've had a couple returns for touchdowns there.
Solid defense. Actually,
defense, they probably have. I don't know if it's statistically the best, but actually, by some metrics, I know it's not. But by others, if you look at like the whole package, their defense has been really good.
I saw them comparing them, I think, to the 85 Bears, and this Vikings team had bested them in all the categories they pointed out.
And that's crazy, because think about the league now, and they talk about how offensive stats are meaningless. If you were to compare offensive stats from now to 85, they would talk about how meaningless that is, because everything's geared around offense now. Okay, well, think about what a defense is doing. Right. If not just like in terms of, a lot of times when they make that comparison, they're using it in terms of like, well, the game's different now, but, you know, this would be like the 85 Bears. Like, no, we're saying like statistically, even with the games changed, this is. Now, it's through 5 games. Who knows how it'll play out, but the Vikings, man, and on offense, I got to give it to them. Like, Sam Bradford's there.
Yeah,
and the key is...
Surprise. Without Adrian Peterson.
And without some key offensive linemen.
Right.
This is incredible what the Vikings are doing right now.
At least 2, maybe 3 guys that started the season.
Right.
They're missing Adrian Peterson. The Vikings are 5-0. Got into a bye week. Try to get a little bit healthier. Crazy. Absolutely. Yeah. And with the way the Packers are playing, and the inconsistency of the Lions and the Bears not being good at all, this is the Vikings division to lose, and they could have this wrapped up by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they could. We could enter December and they have this wrapped up.
Wow. And with everything that happened in the beginning of the year with Teddy Bridgewater and the trade for Sam Bradford.
Which, leads to some interesting questions moving forward if this continues for the Vikings.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The Steelers got back in the win column after they lost to the Eagles. They beat the Jets 31-13.
Well, they had beat Kansas City after that.
Oh, you're right. They did.
But
so
still,
2-game winning streak after that.
Now, a lot of people talked about how the Steelers, it's been a long time since they've won in Philadelphia. Well, it's a similar statistic, maybe not identical.
The Jets
but
in Pittsburgh?
Jets' record in Pittsburgh is awful.
Atlanta gave Denver their first loss in an exciting game and a bit of a surprise. 23-16. The Falcons went to Denver and won in Mile High. And Tevin Coleman, I believe, who suffers from sickle cell. Is it Tevin Coleman or was it
It is Tevin Coleman.
Devontae Freeman?
It's Tevin Coleman. Yeah, because
he decided to play despite the risks, and he had a huge game for the Falcons.
And he's really come on. I had him in fantasy last year, and he got the concussion. He got a bad concussion and missed a lot of time. And Devontae Freeman seized the opportunity. Well, the Falcons are kind of in a position now where they've got two good
great backs.
Yeah. And remember, Tevin Coleman lit it up, I think, in Indiana, right? Yeah.
Devontae Freeman's from Florida State. So they got two Power 5 guys in their backfield, and they're playing like it. Suffered a bit of a setback today, but you know what? It's not unexpected.
Right. And not to jump ahead too much, but they played at the Broncos last week, come back, play at Seattle, coming off of a bye this week, and arguably should have had a chance to win that game at the end.
Yes.
But that's aside, because they had opportunities to not have it be in that position, and they literally handed it away. So, that goes back and forth. But the Falcons are one of those teams that I said they're probably much better than I thought they were. Now, that being said, they were 5-0 last year, and the wheels fell off.
This just seems different.
Oh, it seems a lot different. Because they can run the ball, and their defense, defense today, a little different, but they kind of took it to the Broncos last week. And what impressed me was how they were able to score 23 points on the road at Denver. They were kind of able to spread them out and attack them right up the gut, and it was interesting.
Another game that was a bit of a surprise, at least to me, was not so much that the Cowboys beat the Bengals, but entering the fourth quarter, it was 28-0.
How non-competitive the game was. Yes, I agree. This is one of those where I thought I picked the Cowboys because I originally did, but I changed it before I sent my picks in because I was like, you know what, the Bengals have to come around sooner or later, right?
You would think. When they were coming off a long week, too.
So it didn't really surprise me that the Cowboys won. However, just domination. I think they had 200 yards in the first quarter, 200 rushing yards.
Defense couldn't do anything. Offense couldn't do anything until in the fourth quarter when the game was a bit out of hand.
Yep.
So Dallas moved to 4-1. Bengals fell to 2-3, and we actually see the same result for each of those teams in this week, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Elsewhere, the Bills beat the Rams after starting 0-2. Buffalo 3 straight wins, and they improved on that this week. 30-19 in LA. The Chargers, another heartbreaking late fourth quarter loss as the Raiders came out on top 34-31.
Play calling there too.
Raiders moved to 4-1. Packers able to beat the Giants on Sunday Night Football 23-16. The Packers, while they're at 3-1, a little uninspiring and not exactly a lot of faith at Lambeau right now.
A little awkward, as you could hear when they honored Favre at halftime today. Well, I was getting ahead to today, but you could hear people in the stands who were yelling, and you could hear them on the mics yelling, "Put him in the game!"
Wow. They're starting to turn on Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And I think it's more frustration, not necessarily calling for Aaron Rodgers' job yet, more just come on, Packers in general. This is the team, we've talked about it a lot in the preseason every year when we talk about until you prove otherwise, Packers are the team here. Well, maybe they're starting to prove otherwise this year. That's kind of what it's starting to look like.
Absolutely. And then in the Monday night game, which you expected to see the Panthers start to turn it around and get on track.
It was the Thursday night game of all Monday night games.
Buccaneers, Panthers at home.
Although maybe to be outdone by this Monday night's game, but okay.
They scored just 14 and surrender 17, and
right.
Panthers, who lost one game last year, not counting the Super Bowl, are 1-4, and spoiler alert, it didn't get better in week 6.
And it looked like they might have saved their season today. Like, it looked like it.
You thought so. Now, there's one game we didn't talk about from week 5.
Oh, gosh.
But the Eagles, coming off of a bye, riding high, 3-0. Carson Wentz looking great. You know, people really excited for the season. They go to Detroit and lose by a point,
Right.
24-23.
It was 21-10 at halftime because the Eagles were able to put up 10 second quarter points. Then the Eagles score 10. So next thing you know, it's 21-20. The Eagles go up 23-21. They've got the ball. They've got, all these things lined up. And next thing you know, it's third down and probably like 4 or so. And they hand off to Ryan Matthews, who I immediately, before it happened, I'm like, he's carrying the ball in the wrong arm. He was carrying it on the inside arm. Helmet on the ball.
That is a huge no-no.
Helmet on the ball, especially at a point in the game where, look, if you're down and like you're reaching to try to make a play, and it happens. Hey, you made an aggressive mistake. It didn't work out this time. You're at a spot in the game where you should be as conservative as you can possibly be. He handed off to the veteran, the rookie quarterback, had the Eagles in a position to win. What you do there, the Lions had no timeouts. You run it, you run the clock down, you punt, right? And you give the Lions like 40 seconds or so to drive the length of the field for their field goal.
Right.
Well, instead, he fumbles the ball. Now, he fumbled the ball. It was touched by guys who were out of bounds. All right, it was touched by guys who were out of bounds, so it should have been Eagles' ball anyway. Now, the ball would have gone out, the clock would have stopped, but it should have been the Eagles' chance to punt. Eagles stop the Lions dead in their tracks on first and second down, then give up a huge play on third down to put them in field goal range, and the Lions kick it. They get the ball back with a minute and a half, and on the first play, Carson Wentz tries to throw 60 yards, get it all in one shot, and it was picked off. Also, I mean, it's tough to say because it was a long throw, but the receivers did no help of breaking up. Take the pass interference. Don't let the guy catch the ball and end the game. But, whatever. It was one of those where I'm going to live with the Carson Wentz mistake there. He's a rookie. And again, then they were in a position where, okay, he made a mistake being aggressive. I immediately had flashbacks to the Penn State Pitt game where Trace McSorley threw it deep when all they needed was the field goal. All they needed was the field goal, tried to force it, bad things happened. But I also tried to tell myself, look at McSorley since then. He has progressed. He's done well. The team worked from that and has been pretty good. Michigan aside, Michigan as of right now, one of the best teams in the country, right? Yeah. On the road. That's
as unfortunate as that is.
Right. So I kind of looked at, the Lions aren't one of the best teams in the NFL. That's different. But you know what? They're a veteran running back fumbling the ball at the most inconvenient time away from winning that game. Or at least having a much better shot at winning
on the road.
Right. So, okay, you'll take that.
It would have been better if that was against the Vikings, though, and not the Lions.
Right. But it also ends up where was the defense in the first half? Where was the offense in the first quarter? It was an inconsistent game. In the NFL, you can't show up for a half and expect to win. And in reality, the Eagles only showed up
for a game.
The Eagles only showed up for a half, but not consecutive quarters. They played well in the second quarter and in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't going to be. Oh, sorry, that was today's score. I was looking at the scores today.
Yeah,
but still,
it was 24-23
right,
last.
But they scored 10 points in the second and third quarters, and then 3 points in the fourth quarter. So again, they only put 2 really good quarters back to back, and the defense was nowhere to be found in the first half. That played out again today.
Yeah, to continue your misery, let's jump to week 6, and we'll get back to the Thursday night game, which I'd say mostly a surprise, though you did pick it. But we'll go to Eagles-Redskins. Eagles-Redskins. Eagles coming off the loss. Redskins coming off a win. Redskins, need to keep pace and get back into where they're going in the East, hosting the Eagles.
Right.
Big game. And, despite the score being 27-20 and it, being close, one possession, Eagles with a chance late in the game, Eagles almost, I hate to say this, but they almost didn't deserve to be in the game.
No, they didn't. They didn't deserve to be in the game.
I don't want to discount the way they got their 14,
right.
but when you get 14 from defense and special teams, there's something wrong.
Right, and if you get that and then you get others, you're like, okay, well,
right, then it's just added
then
bonus.
It becomes like, oh, well, the interception return for a touchdown, they might have scored on that offensive play.
We saw Wilson against Penn Manor.
Right, but here, if the defense or special teams didn't score, there was nothing to tell me that they were going to score otherwise.
Right.
Again, slow start, gave up 21 points in the first half, so you get a hole. Slow start offensively, all right, where they were off to a hot start offensively in the first 3 games. Now they've had back-to-back games where they didn't score in the first quarter. And then they got it going in the second half, but that was all defense. That was the kickoff return for a touchdown, which came off of because there was a penalty to Vernon Davis for a celebration, so they had to kick off. Wendell Smallwood took it 86 yards.
Back to the house.
And then Malcolm Jenkins returned.
Picked off
but
Cousins.
Prior to that, so that was after the Eagles returned the kickoff for a touchdown. They kick off. Redskins drive right down the field again, and he returns it 64 yards for a touchdown. So they were driving. They were going to get points again. They got 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, but it was one of those where everything the Eagles did, it seemed like they had to try so hard. And then the Redskins would just, boom, run 60 yards, touchdown, or, whatever. The Eagles climbed right into it, and then next thing you know, the Redskins 3 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. The game was summed up by the first offensive play for the Eagles when Ryan Kerrigan literally ripped the back of Carson Wentz's jersey so bad that he had to replace the jersey for the second thing.
As a duo that jointly controls...
How is it not a horse collar if
you only grab the jersey,
maybe he was in the pocket. Honestly, I wasn't watching at the time. I was working on something. But, maybe he was in the pocket, so it couldn't have been, if you're right in that area. So, I don't know. But
as a duo that jointly controls a fantasy team, starting 2 Eagles today, probably not going to produce many points.
No.
So, if you started for, say, Zach Ertz and Jordan Matthews, probably not getting much.
No.
Just FYI.
Now, some of the frustrations I had today, where I know the Redskins were bringing pressure, but one of the things the Eagles have done early on, and they kind of got away from it a little bit last week in Detroit as well, was they started Wentz out with a lot of short passes to try and get him in some rhythm early. And they weren't calling those today, and so he was just a little off on some of the throws. Now, some of the throws downfield today early where Jordan Matthews catches it but only gets 1 foot in bounds. Well, okay, that's one where if he could catch it and get 1 foot, you got to think, oh, well, you know what? It was in the right spot. He's got to get 2 feet down, or at least make a try for it. He wasn't even close. He didn't even try. So, you look at, well, that's not really on the quarterback. There's some throws that were off, don't get me wrong, but the other guys need to help out the rookie quarterback. You can't have it be like the rookie quarterback needs to do everything. And the last 2 games, that hasn't really been there, including penalties, man. They're still taking so many stupid penalties.
Earlier this
week,
that
are killing them. They lost by 7. They got a touchdown. At least 1 touchdown was because they got an extra shot at things. They got a roughing the passer. They got a face mask. They got all kinds of stuff. So the Eagles are hurting themselves too much right now. To be honest, they're at 3-2 now.
Yes,
that's above where I kind of had pegged them. Not necessarily game by game, but they are kind of right where we kind of pegged them. They're not awful, but they're not that good. They're kind of in between.
2 things. First, earlier this week, Lane Johnson's suspension for PEDs was upheld. It's his second offense, so it's a 10-game absence.
The whole thing of this, just don't get me wrong. He did it before. I'm not here to proclaim his innocence, but he did it before and served 4-game suspension. That's why he got a 10-game suspension this time. But this happened in the middle of August, which means he probably tested back in July.
Right.
The beginning of training camp is generally one of the times they test you.
Mm-hmm.
So they appealed, and the whole thing is so messed up that he just found out now. They say usually the appeal process to knowing is 2 weeks.
Well,
and he just found out.
But he just went in to talk to someone.
Right. I know he went in during the bye to talk again, but they said usually it's decided by, but it's all weird. Now, I'm not defending Lane Johnson because
They got 4 games out of
He did it before. He was tested for it. But, like, you know what? Hey.
They'll get him back for 2 games at the end of the year, week 16 and 17.
And he lost all of the guarantee on his $25 million.
And as a reminder, Eagles-Cowboys, week 17 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so, well.
The second thing was, and this is what I wanted to say, and I didn't say it, and I wish I did, so that I could be like, see, this is what I was waiting for. Back when they went 3-0 and going into the bye. You know, and you guys we were having a good time, Raz, and you know, you guys, you know, I know you joke, like, you're happy, but you know, you're not like, you know, buy all the Eagles stock in the world.
So you understand I was kidding when I said he's better than
yes,
Marino.
Trust me, I understand.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say was, we see this all the time with rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
As soon as you have a few games played, NFL defensive coordinators and players are smart enough and experienced enough to figure out what they can do to exploit your weaknesses. And I'm not pinning this all on him.
No.
Obviously, this isn't just a Carson Wentz issue.
Right, but that's the problem, was that the other guys who need to step up in that situation to help the team haven't. The Eagles don't have a wide receiver that can get open. They don't.
Right.
They don't. I like Jordan Matthews, but he makes it hard to like him. It makes him hard to defend him sometimes. Like, not literally. Literally,
defend him
it's
as
easy.
a fan.
Right. Literally in the game, it's easy to defend him, and that's the problem. Like, the fastest guys are not the good receivers. And that's a problem.
Right. You're Jordan Matthews and Nelson Aguilar.
Which is why it turns some heads when before, like, this week on conference calls, like, Deshaun Jackson says no, he wouldn't rule out maybe coming back to Philly when he's a free agent at the end of the year. And everybody's like, whoa, like, you said, you know, you had all these problems with Philly. And he just straight up says, the people who had a problem with me in Philly and got rid of me aren't there anymore. That's what he straight up said, which is true. Like,
it is true.
Like, he took some heat for that, but nothing he said was wrong there.
No, he was telling the truth.
True. The guys in the front office and Chip Kelly didn't like him, and they got rid of him. Now, I was all on board with the Chip Kelly mindset of, like, if you're going to go with Chip Kelly, especially Chip Kelly, you've got to give him full control.
Let him do it his way.
To let him, which is why I think this 49ers thing is going to be a disaster. We're getting sidetracked now, but because they have maybe the GM with the biggest personality in all of football in terms of, maybe not like in the news, but in terms of, there's no denying it. Look, he's run off coach after coach already. Good coaches. He ran off Harbaugh. Now, I know Harbaugh rubs people the wrong way, but like, it was a GM who doesn't want to take a back seat to anyone, including the successful head coach. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I think the Eagles are going to be okay. The job now is going to be, all right, Doug Peterson, you earn your money. The defenses have adjusted to the things you were doing the first 3 weeks. Now it's your turn to adjust to the things that have happened the last 2 weeks.
You need to figure it out.
Right.
You need to figure out how Lane Johnson's replacement, which I'm not even going to attempt to announce his name, but people on Twitter were calling him Winston Justice. Or Human Turnstile.
Yeah.
They got to figure out what they're going to do on the offensive line in his absence. They got to figure out how they're going to start to adjust their play calling and personnel to, you know, get the upper hand. It's a chess game. That's what the NFL is. Now it's the Eagles' turns to adjust.
Right, and so the Eagles have to make the adjustment. The Eagles also, this was a little unsettling, based on records so far this year, have the hardest remaining schedule of any team left. So that's what you need when you're building.
Yes,
with
absolutely.
I say young team. They're not that young. That's the problem. They have money invested in some older guys, so who knows?
That may be because that their next 2 games are against teams that are currently 10-1.
Right, yeah.
You know,
good.
because week 7, the Eagles just play the Vikings, and then the week after that, they go to Dallas.
You know what, though? Maybe that'll benefit them, because the best game they had was the game that they had no business winning. And so I think as of right now,
you think they rise to the top?
They're going to be underdogs the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, you know what? Maybe they play to the. I think the pressure, in some ways, the pressure's on because you need to respond. But if they could win one of those 2, if they could be 4-3, I'd call that a success. I know some people won't because it's the NFL and there's no moral victories, blah blah blah. But if they were to beat one of those 2 teams that let's face it, are better than them.
4-3 with the win over the Vikings or the Cowboys,
right.
I don't see why you'd be upset with that. I know after starting 3-0, people are going to be like, well, they were 1-3 in the next 4. But hey, you got to take little wins when you have a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback.
Right. One last thing. We talk about Doug Peterson making adjustments. I think Jim Schwartz is doing a great job, but teams have adjusted to him in the first half too. They've given up back-to-back first halves of 21 points, and then they've done much better in the second half.
He needs to do those adjustments before the game, not at halftime.
Right. And I feel like this is a conversation we have with not just our NFL teams.
All right, we got 3 texts here from my dad. First was pointing out that the Eagles play the Vikings, and hence will be 3-3 after next week. That's from him.
Okay. That's all right. They're just pushing that. The Vikings are just pushing that second pick that they get from the Eagles up into higher rounds.
And he actually asked a question here. He says, "Do you and Justin want to change your Super Bowl picks?" Now we're about approximately a third through the season. I know there's not
I'm not
18 weeks,
sure.
but
I think I picked someone against the Patriots.
You picked. You either picked Seahawks. I think you picked Seahawks over Patriots.
I did pick Seahawks over Patriots,
and I picked Steelers over Seahawks.
I'm not changing.
No, I think yours is safe. I'm not ready to dump on the Steelers, which we'll get to in a second. But my dad says I don't see Pittsburgh doing it. Is what he says.
I don't think their defense is good enough, which is exactly what we kind of said. If they have a weakness, it's still there.
Yeah.
Ben got nicked today.
He did.
We can.
But see, my thing is, if not the Steelers, the only other option is the Patriots. Who else in the AFC is worthy?
No one. And look at it this way. How many times have we seen the Steelers look vulnerable in September and October?
And then they roll in November and December.
The week before Thanksgiving, they're going to start to win. They're going to win 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 7. Hit the playoffs rolling to be the team that no one wants to play. They're going to play the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. That's how this is going to work out. I honestly
that's
think
what we call. We both had
right.
Steelers Patriots in the AFC Championship game,
right.
And right now I don't see, anyone making me change. I know people were probably screaming, "What about the Broncos? What about the Broncos?"
Right.
I'm sorry. I know Simeon started
score.
hot.
They can't score, and their defense has now been exposed 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
Not that 21 points and 23 points is exposed, but for the Broncos that is. The Broncos that is exposed.
So
all of a sudden, don't get me wrong. Yes, Peyton Manning was not that great last year, but all of a sudden you're seeing. It's not quite as simple as just putting anyone in there. As much as everybody was like, "Oh, anybody could play quarterback for the Broncos." No, not anyone. It still required certain skill sets, and right now it's not really Trevor Simeon's fault. No one can do that.
In the NFC, I still think the Seahawks are great. I guess I'd look at Atlanta, possible contender there. Arizona's looked bad. The Panthers looked awful. Vikings obviously have to be in the consideration. So Vikings, Seahawks, Falcons, and Patriots, Steelers.
Honestly, I'd say the Vikings are probably the best right now.
Those are the top 6 teams in the NFL. I don't really think there's an argument otherwise.
No.
There's going to be teams that'll, hey, if Oakland would have won today, I probably would have considered it, but they didn't. So, sorry. Well, let's go through some of these games. We mentioned Denver, 2 straight losses. That's because on Thursday night they lost to the Chargers. The Chargers are a sneaky team. They could, honestly, I think they possibly could be undefeated if they could finish the final 2 minutes of a game.
Right.
I think all 4 of their losses have come after they led in the fourth quarter and after they led in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At worst, if everything went their way, I think at worst they'd be 5-1.
Right, and instead they're 2-4, which is it helps them that the Raiders lost today, but that's tough.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting division. Broncos 4-2, Chargers 2-4, Raiders now 4-2, tied with the Broncos. Chiefs I believe also 4-2.
Look at the Broncos. I can't recall their schedule altogether, but all of a sudden the win against the Panthers
doesn't
was
look that great.
As good as of a win,
Right.
I don't know. And then you look at they beat Carolina, they beat Indianapolis, which again, what's that win? They beat Cincinnati, what's that win? They beat Tampa Bay. So the 4 teams they beat were four teams that were projected to be good,
but are not great
struggling
right now.
so far, and who knows what they're going to end up
being. Their biggest test might have been Atlanta, and they lost.
Right at home.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah.
Now they get Houston and San Diego back to back at home, so they get to see the Chargers again.
Right.
This time at home. Then they
done with them
also
for the season.
Then they get to go to Oakland and look at this week 17.
Yeah, Oakland at Denver.
And Denver plays KC the week before.
Yeah.
And hosts New England the week before that.
Yeah, so their last 3 games, man. I think we'll know by Thanksgiving though, what this team is. Cuz they've got Houston, which is a team they should beat, right? If they don't, that's a problem.
If they're who they think we are, they should win most of these next
They
games.
should at least
Houston,
be 3-1.
San Diego,
next one.
Oakland. So these
I'd say at
interesting
Oakland
games.
can be tough, except Oakland's terrible at home.
Right.
Like, they've only won, like, 1 out of the last 10 at home.
All right.
It'll
So
be interesting because that won't be their home for much longer.
49ers, Bills. Kaepernick got his first start in basically a year.
Right.
Didn't look too bad going into the half. It was 17-13.
Right, and I was starting to think, is this where the Bills are the Bills and lose this game that they absolutely have no reason to lose?
No, this is when we see a Chip Kelly team be led by Chip Kelly and an
Yep,
inept
and it snowballed
defense
out
and
of
offense.
control.
Bills went on to win 45-16.
And never underestimate McCoy wanting revenge on.
Right, and he did get injured, and I told you I thought it was an ACL because
Yeah.
he went down and immediately grabbed his knee, and I was like, well, that's never good.
Right.
But he ended up being okay. He scored 3 touchdowns today. Now, if the Browns wanted to get a win this year, today would have been the day to do it because looking at the rest of their schedule, they're not going to be favored in a single game the rest of the year. They lost to the Titans today 28-26. They're 0-6.
You know who's better than I thought he would be? Terrell Pryor.
Oh, yeah,
Man,
definitely.
you know what? I'm sure he wanted to be a quarterback, but he you know what he wanted more? To play in the NFL. And he's found himself a spot, and he's going to be a receiver. Like, he is.
Oh, absolutely.
He's their best receiver. He's their best
He
receiver.
might be their best player.
No, he is their best player.
So, yeah, so they play at Cincinnati, host the Jets, host the Cowboys, at Baltimore, host Pittsburgh, host the Giants before their bye. In what game there would they be favored?
None.
Were they favored in any of these games? Were they?
No. I think technically today, no, they weren't favored today. Tennessee was favored today, especially at home.
Then after the bye, they host Cincinnati, go to Buffalo, host San Diego, go to Pittsburgh in Week 17. And what in those games do you see them winning?
And to make it tough, I'd say maybe at Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh has playoff stuff locked up.
True.
That sounds terrible, but that might be it. But then you'd also have the Browns wanting to lose to improve draft position.
Although if they're 0-15, I'm not sure they really have to worry about it. Now we alluded to this earlier, but the Ravens, after winning their first 3 games, have lost their last 3. They fell to the Giants
and again,
today,
another team that's
27-23.
like finding ways to lose.
Right. The Ravens, 3-3. Giants needed a win to keep pace in the NFC East and look like they're a team that could contend for a division title. And like we said, possibly all 4 teams right there. Now I know Dallas is starting to distance themselves. Still a lot of time to go, but Giants needed this win.
For Romo to come back and screw it up.
Unfortunately for me, playing my Uncle Bob in fantasy, Odell Beckham who I can't stand.
And did you see a celebration?
Yeah, I went over to the goal. Yeah, the kicking net.
It was funny.
No, it wasn't. It's
was
old.
funny.
It's old hat now. He needs to move on. Giants win 27-23. Panthers, we talked, having a rough go. They're now 1-5.
They outscored the Saints 21-10 in the fourth quarter,
and 28-17 in the fourth, and lost overall
because they're outscored 24-10 and 14-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah, so Panthers defense not getting it done. The loss of Josh Norman continues to hurt them. Yeah, Carolina doesn't look anything like the team of a year ago.
No,
they're very unlikely to make the playoffs at this point.
It was they had a good day from the running back who came back today.
Jonathan Stewart?
Yeah, Jonathan Stewart had a nice day.
If there's a team that can wallow in depression just like the Panthers, it's got to be the Bears, who I believe were up 16-0 early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And the Jaguars proceeded to score 17 unanswered and win by a point.
Yeah. And
Allen Robinson continues to look amazing.
Yeah, he's good.
So Jaguars 17, Bears 16.
Every time I think that, this is the week where if the Jaguars lose, the coach is getting fired, they win. So,
which is what, 2 weeks in a row now, or 2 out of 3.
Well, they didn't play last week, so it's the last 2 games. They had a bye coming home from coming home from London.
Yeah,
not New England, just England, and then the Colts did not.
Which
just adds to my confusion.
They started the season with a close loss to Green Bay, then they got housed by San Diego. They lost to Baltimore by 2, which a game they should have won. Yep. Same thing. They lost they beat Indianapolis in
London.
Had
in a game they probably should have lost.
Right. And now they beat Chicago by a point. So a lot of close games. Their only big loss was to San Diego, but could have beat Green Bay. Probably should have beaten Baltimore. Those swings are important in the NFL season. Now they get to host the Raiders. and then they play at Tennessee. They got to win that Tennessee game if they want to have any choice or any chance at a wild card. They get to finish the year at Indianapolis in Week 17.
Yeah.
So that's a little look at the Jaguars.
Yeah, they finished Houston, Tennessee, and
all division games.
All three in the last.
The LA Rams visited the Detroit Lions. Lions coming off the victory of the Eagles last week, and this was an exciting game, back and forth, a lot of points scored. Each team scored a touchdown per quarter. The biggest difference, the Lions chipped in a field goal near the end, and they won 31-28.
Big surprise here, I think, is that the Rams have a bottom 5 defense in the NFL.
Right, oh yeah, right. With all those number 1
crazy.
picks and great players,
Right.
especially along the defensive line.
Everyone thought, the defense is going to be what carries them. They're struggling.
Well, they lost a lot in their secondary, and that's a
did.
big issue in the NFL nowadays.
Yep.
Bit of a surprise here.
A bit.
Definitely a surprise, as no one in their right mind would have picked Miami to win this game.
Did you pick them?
No.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
Miami.
No one in your right mind. I kind of just led me
Well,
right to
I'm
you.
never in my right mind.
Exactly.
Miami scored 30 points against the Steelers, giving up only 15. They beat up Ben Roethlisberger. They held Antonio Brown in check. And when the Dolphins play perfect or near perfect, this is what happens.
I was going to say, is this one of those games where you're excited about the win, but you're frustrated
with all the other games?
because you're like...
You lose the Titans by 13?
Because you're like, look, you didn't even have to play as close to this good against the Titans to win.
Right.
Or close to... You just had to play... If they played 85% of today, they're probably...
Oh my gosh, they might be 5-1.
I was going to say, they're at least 4-2.
Yeah.
At least 4-2.
Yeah, that's why it's frustrating. So,
Right.
I'm happy they beat the Steelers, especially because I know so many people that are Pittsburgh fans. I just get to gloat about it. I actually think Miami beat the Steelers the last time they played.
I never take joy.
No, you never
in the
take joy in the
loss.
Steelers losing, ever.
Right.
No, none whatsoever.
Just to be clear on that.
All right, so Dolphins get a win. Yay. Steelers lost. Bit surprising there. Moving on to another AFC North team, Bengals in search of some motivation, some mojo. Not happening in New England. Brady gets his first home win back with the team this year.
Not a great time to be looking to get your mojo back when you have to go to Brady's first game back in New England.
So the
not going to happen.
Bengals fall to 2-4. The Patriots improved to 5-1 and are looking like the team to be not only in the AFC but possibly in the NFL.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Chiefs improved to 4-2 with a dismantling of the Raiders in Oakland, 26-10. Maybe it's Kansas City, the team to beat in the West. I don't know. We'll see. After this beatdown of the Raiders today, it looks that way.
Yeah, and this is one of those Andy Reid after the bye, man. The week after the bye, he is unreal. He's not undefeated anymore, but he is so good after the bye.
The Seahawks look to be in control against the Falcons in Seattle, 17-3 at half, and then the Falcons exploded in the third quarter for 21 points to take the lead, 24-17. Seattle got 9 points in the fourth quarter and held on to win 26-24.
They actually scored, and it appeared to be like a tie game. They were going to kick the extra point to tie it up at 24. I forget the tight end's name, but he got hurt, and they had to clear the field to get him off because he hurt
From
his
Seattle?
knee pretty bad. Yeah,
Not Jimmy Graham?
no,
Luke Wilson?
yeah, Luke Wilson. All right, so there was a commercial and a delay before they kicked the extra point. Extra point gets blocked. So now there's 5 minutes left, and what does Matt Ryan do? Throw a pick at midfield, and the Seahawks go down, kick a field goal to go up. So right around 2 minutes left, they kick back to the Falcons. Falcons are coming and get to 4th and 10 in their own territory.
Looking for
Bomb
Julio
one up
Jones.
to Julio Jones. He was absolutely interfered with, but
no call.
No call.
Because who was defending?
The best cornerback in the league, Richard Sherman. I don't know that there was interference. It was close.
It was
close.
It was interference.
It was absolutely interference.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't
But they didn't
call
get it. Now, that being said, I understand them being furious at not getting the call. You got shut out 9-0 in the fourth quarter. There
was obviously reasons
and you scored
that they
3 points in
could
the
have,
first
should
half.
have won.
Right. But they absolutely should have had a chance at a long field goal. I get it. I'm not that upset because I wanted the Seahawks to win the game.
Just look at it this way, silver lining. You played with possibly one of the best teams in the NFC. Don't want to discount the Vikings. And you could have, should have won.
Right. Like I mentioned before.
On the road.
You played at Denver last week, flew home, played at Seattle this week. Seattle had a bye last week.
Yeah.
Everything was stacked against you, and you went toe to toe with them. So you've got to do that because look at your division's not real good right now. So what the Falcons need to do is focus on building up this lead because last year they jumped out to a great start and were tied with the Panthers and just fell off.
How great would it be if we see a rematch in the NFC Championship game of the '98 season, where the Vikings went 15-1 and the Falcons went up there and what was the name of the Vikings kicker that missed the kick? Was it Anderson? Was it one of the Andersons?
The only one he missed all year.
Misses the field goal.
He was the quarterback on that Minnesota team.
Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
So, and the Falcons went, and that was the Dirty Bird, all that stuff.
John Elway.
And lost to the Broncos. But was that one in New Orleans?
I don't remember. Yes, it was because the Falcons got
soliciting.
Yeah.
So good times, good memories. Almost 20 years ago. Crazy to think about that.
Yes, we're old.
Last game to talk about: Cowboys at Packers. Is Green Bay struggling?
Yes.
Is that going to be confirmed? Is Dallas as good as some think they are?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one where where I'm starting to figure out. You know what, Cowboys? I thought they had a chance to be pretty good this year. You don't know what to expect. They are. They're better than I was giving them credit for, even though I thought they were going to be decent, pretty good. And the Packers aren't as good as I thought they were. So
the Cowboys could easily be undefeated right now. They probably should beat the Giants in Week 1.
They should be, yeah.
Now they're going on their bye, and then they get to host the Eagles.
Please let Tony Romo come back.
And before traveling to Cleveland and Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks.
Let's just be honest. It's not going to happen that week. I know it's not. But just how awesome would it be? As just a football fan, if Tony Romo came back for the Eagles game and the Eagles won in Dallas.
To me,
from the news standpoint, it would just be insane. It would
they'd be crazy to start Romo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm generally a Romo fan.
They're going to, right?
They're not starting against the Eagles because it's starting to come out that they're kind of getting a little hesitant, and they say, well, they want to give him one more week after he's active to get better, and that's the Eagles game.
Right. Well, yeah, but think about it this way: what if he comes in against Cleveland and struggles, and they win, but they struggle? There's no way they can struggle
I don't
against
understand
Cleveland. That offensive lineman, they shouldn't struggle against anyone.
If you're 6-1 with the backup quarterback and winning convincingly, some weeks looking really good. Now, they only won by 4 points over the Redskins and a touchdown over the 49ers, but
this is the next Brady moment.
I've said that already.
Not saying that Dak's the next Brady, but just
it's comparable scenario.
This is he's played well enough to not give the guy his job back.
Well, it happened in Philly too. How many times you saw it first? Vic do it to to McNabb, right? Yep. And then you saw Cobb do it to Vic.
Yep.
So, it's obviously there's a precedent in the NFL. If you're winning, you don't want to rock the boat. So I can't imagine them starting Tony Romo unless Dak has a terrible game. And even one, he's a rookie. He's going to have a bad game eventually.
Right.
But with that offensive line and Ezekiel Elliott, the first running back.
If you want to talk about having a bad game eventually, when? The Eagles defense has been, brought back to earth. They're not terrible, but they're not great, right? So you would think in Dallas, that offensive line, they should be able to be okay. Cleveland's defense isn't going to shut them down. Pittsburgh defense isn't going to shut them down.
Or Baltimore.
Baltimore, maybe.
They have their moments.
Right.
They're a little beat up today.
Washington's defense is probably, maybe Washington.
December 1st,
you start to see it. That could be a huge game.
Dallas at Minnesota, that could be for NFC number 1 seed.
That's a Sunday night game, too.
NFC number 1 seed right there. It could be on the line December 1st. Wow. Yeah. What an incredible game that sets up to be.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned Dallas at Philly in Week 17. So, it's going to be fun. And the Cowboys host the Redskins on Thanksgiving. So, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Always is. So, Cowboys looking good, rolling over the Packers today in Lambeau, 30-16.
Oh, December 1st must be a Thursday. No.
Wait.
Do they play back-to-back Thursdays? They do.
They might.
They play back-to-back Thursdays. They play Thanksgiving and then December 1st.
Yeah, you're right.
And
wow,
because
that's crazy.
I was like, how do they play the 1st and 11th if their bye is this week? But they play back-to-back Thursdays.
Back-to-back Thursdays. Hey, it still works out.
Right, yeah.
So, right now, the Colts are beating the Texans in Houston 13-3. That's the Sunday night game on NBC. Tomorrow night, Jets go to Cardinals. Pretty much, I mean, a must-win for either team, but the Cardinals probably need it more.
Yeah,
because the Jets don't
at
really
1-4,
have much of a
it's probably
chance.
done. Yeah, the Cardinals, they need
They need to
with
keep
Seattle
pace
looking
with
like
Seattle.
Russell Wilson looked like he's getting better.
Getting
he's
healthier.
He's not 100%, but he looked better than he did before the bye. Cardinals to go to 2-4 would be a problem there.
Yeah, it definitely would. So that is what happened in the NFL in weeks 5 and 6. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about weeks 7 and 8. So actually we'll be on during the Eagles-Cowboys game in 2 weeks.
That might be
Night
good.
before
actually.
Halloween.
That might be good. We'll just have to turn your phone off so we can't get updates.
Actually, that should be an
By
entertaining
updates,
show.
I mean harassing texts from callers.
And by callers, you mean a single caller.
Yeah.
So, I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure you.
On the other hand, if for some reason it was going the other way, man, I would thoroughly enjoy that show.
Doing it live, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just remember to continue to go to JoeMaysandJraff.com, which redirects you to our site on jmnjrradio.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm at JMFlyer1454. He's at Mr_Raffoff. You can also follow at JMNJR_radio and at JoeMaysandJraff. And just visit the site, download it, spread the word, get people to listen to us. And also listen to the Bulldog Hour. We're doing it often this year. We're already going to be recording episode 6 next weekend. And we're having a lot of fun. The team is, at 6-1 now?
6-1.
With a big game this coming Friday, hosting Manheim Township at Gursky, which will really put Wilson in the driver's seat should they win for a 9th straight Lancaster Lebanon League Section 1 title, and would be their 62nd victory in a row against LL Section 1 teams.
Insane. So, big game, though. It's
Absolutely
a tough one.
huge. So, I think that's everything. Thanks for joining us. This wraps up This wraps up episode 216 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. I'm Justin.
Until next time, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live on Ustream or Mixler and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at JoeMaysandJraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.